From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker.
Always nice to have you tuned in for Ticats This Week, and this is a short week, just 4 days off between games, and it's a big one against Montreal. It's the home opener at Tim Hortons Field, so a lot to get to. I'm RJ Broadhead, he's Luke Tasker. Luke, an 0-2 start for the Tiger Cats. There is some panic among fans, and I was at practice this week. Some media members are very concerned. How about you? How are you feeling about this 0-2 start?
Oh, just so long as you don't start saying must wins yet when we're still in June here.
I'm not even there yet, so yeah. I'll tell you what I think after, but I want to get your opinion first.
Yeah, well, the encouraging thing, it's frustrating, but it's it's encouraging as well, is that it's pretty straightforward what's going on here. I mean, you can't turn the ball over in the red zone. At times, even though they got a lot better with penalties, against the Ticats in the game in Toronto, some of the penalties they did take were really costly and certainly helped the Argonauts put points on the boards. So, you've got to be able to execute a little bit better and a little bit more clean. I can't remember if it was in our broadcast, RJ, or could have been Ticats This Week previously in the year, but sometimes I remember as a player, you lose games and, maybe you can't just point out some black and white stuff. It's a little harder. And that just means you're a bad team because the game, you're just losing games and it's hard. But if there's mistakes right in front of you, if there's things that are really coachable and things that you can correct, we heard Coach O say throughout these first 2 weeks of the season, you can identify a problem and then see, how likely is it that we can fix it or that that the problem will happen again. And if the answer to that is yes, it's fixable and it's probably not going to happen again, then there's an answer right there for you. So I certainly think that it's well within the realm of possibility that we get to Labor Day and these two first games are far behind us and far away from our minds. But they've got to fix them, and we know from last year that that we had an ongoing, for instance, turnover problem that didn't go away the whole year, and so and then unfortunately you talk about it the whole year.
Yeah, and it's sort of resurfaced. I just want my thoughts on the 0-2 start. I'm not going to get into the must-wins at this point. I had a good chat with Tunde Adeleke. He's been around for a long time, and slow starts are kind of a thing. I went back to 2021. Tiger Cats started 0-2, and they won the East Championship. Last season, they were 0-4. They lost their first 7 road games, and they made the playoffs. So 0-2, and think about it, in Winnipeg and in Toronto, two of the best teams in the CFL. Those are tough places to win, and you probably give yourself a 50-50 shot going into those places, whereas some of the visiting games, you'd maybe give yourself, if you're the Tiger Cats, a better chance of winning. So you play two really tough teams on the road to start the season. But I do think this game on Friday at 7:30 at Tim Hortons Field against Montreal is very important. I won't say must win, but all of a sudden Tiger Cats win that game and all is good, don't you think?
Yeah, in a sense it is. I mean, you've beat an East Division opponent, and you've sort of got yourself out of the early season slump. And also, like you said, there's sort of some expected hardship with going on the road to those two teams that they started the season with. But there's sort of an expected advantage to playing an East Division opponent at home. And so there is sort of some weight and some pressure on this game. Even the year where we started off 0-8 in the I think it was 2017, we still were fighting for the playoffs at the end. But every game, every loss is a deeper hole that you've dug yourself into. So, great opportunity against Montreal at home here, and a team who's only played one game, and maybe you could argue isn't in the rhythm of their season yet.
You brought up turnovers, Luke, so let's talk about it. According to the CFL stats, I think they have 4 turnovers for Hamilton in game 1. They actually had 5. For some reason, that interception on the 2-point convert hasn't been calculated. So they have 7 turnovers in 2 games. The statistics say 6 turnovers, so they're a -2. But can you ever remember seeing where turnovers turn into points against so often? The 2 interceptions against the Argos, they were picked off in their end zone, which would have been points for the Tiger Cats, and that's kind of a double blow, but they had to go a long way to turn those into touchdowns. It's just uncanny how it just seems to happen. If there's a turnover, the other team's getting points.
Yeah, it has been that way, and I like to as we go through the broadcast of the game, to not lump every turnover into the same category as others. There are some turnovers that are more damaging than others. For instance, the most obvious example is a deep pass downfield that gets intercepted and the play ends is almost equal to a punt. It can be. There are times when it's equal to a punt, but a sack fumble in the backfield. That's a much more damaging interception because there's maybe something like a 30 to 45 yard field position swing right there too. So and then of course the score zone, you immediately take points away from your own team, points that you had already earned with your field position with a drive that got into scoring territory. You trust your kicker to make those field goals, and then of course you're a chance to score a touchdown. So you take those points away from yourself, and then to your point there, RJ, if that offense is able to then drive the field and score again, it is sort of a double whammy. And so, there are, every turnover is damaging. We'll never stop talking about that for as long as they play football. To give away the ball, especially in our sport, is a crucial mistake. And unfortunately, the Ticats have sort of continued to struggle with it into this season.
Looking at the depth chart going into this game, defense is relatively the same. Lawrence Woods is back at the field corner, so that's good news that he only missed the one game, and he'll be back as the returner as well. But there are some concerning things with the defense. The rushing yards allowed over 2 games, they're averaging 127.5 yards rushing against this defense, who was number 1 against the rush last season. So last season, regular season, they allowed 3 games where there were 100 or more rushing yards against. They've already allowed 2 this year. Are you seeing anything that can be pinpointed against this defense, or just really good running backs they're facing?
Dylan Wynn is a key, missing piece of that formula right now, just with his injury. And you've played some good running backs early in this season. I was particularly impressed with Toronto's run game there, and just the quickness to the line of scrimmage. AJ Ouellette and then the quickness into the second level there. I do think with Ticats with some youth up front there right now, but I think it will be learned. I think we'll see that get better. And there were there were times last year where they had weak spots as well. Although across the board they were excellent against the run. It was surprising sometimes when we watched some games get away from them there in crucial moments, and this team, maybe they're having some hardships in the run game or the run game's defense to start the year. I think that they'll continue to see that get better as the group just gets a little bit more experience together.
Also, 5 takeaways in the first game, none against Toronto. That's probably a point of focus for this Montreal game, to get some of those takeaways.
I think so. And we talked about that on the Coach O show earlier this week. That's the part of the ratio that we tend to ignore. We tend to ignore last year because it was such a damaging part of the season, how many times the ball was given away. But especially in that Toronto game, and you got to say, Chad Kelly, AJ Ouellette, those guys handled the ball well and had good ball security. They passed for nearly 200 yards in the first half, and then did not pass frequently in the second half. So, they were, with their lead, they were maybe calling a little bit more of a conservative game plan that makes it harder to intercept the ball, and it puts the ball in the running back's hands, who knows that his job is to hold on to it. So, but Mark Washington's defense, you gotta, they're talking about it, and those guys are hungry to get those takeaways. It is part of the formula. I mean, that's just as important as training that iron cross with your arms and training that high and tight, training that quarterback to be sure in his reads. The other part of the formula is ball hawking, is those defensive and special teams guys. Those, the collisions are bigger and guys are moving faster and from wider angles and special teams, and to really be keying in on being opportunistic with a chance to cause a fumble, something they've got to increase as well.
Quarterback sacks, Tiger Cats have 2 in 2 games, and there's some, you mentioned Dylan Wynn, he's obviously a big factor being out, but Jagarrett Davis, he's known for his quarterback sacks. Malik Carney had 7, Casey Sales, Mo Diallo. They'll all be back as the starters on the defensive line. And I bring up quarterback sacks because Montreal allowed 6 in their only game against Ottawa. So Cody Fajardo is vulnerable to that. Do you expect we'll see a little more pressure on Fajardo than we have seen on the previous 2 quarterbacks in the 2 first games for the Tiger Cats?
Yeah, I would love to see Jagarrett Davis get to the quarterback there a little bit. Casey Sales has been doing just about every job there is to do on the football field for the first 2 games. So, but the young guys, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of penalties from that group up front there as well in the games that have been costly. But certainly, that's a part that needs to increase as well, is just the ability to get to that quarterback and cause a little disruption. I think, Zach Collaros is always going to be making plays with his feet outside of the pocket when he has to. We saw a little bit of that as expected, but I do think Chad Kelly looked, for the most part, he had some time. He was making some pretty calm throws in that first half. Like I said, they didn't throw. They really got away from the passing game in the second half there, but certainly something that you'd like to see increase there, and to have Cody Fajardo not be able to comfortably go first, second, and sometimes third read, but just be able to take a peek and have to make a decision. And that goes hand in hand with the previous topic that we were on, is turnovers. If an uncomfortable quarterback is just going to turn the ball over more frequently.
Well, we'll see what happens on Friday at 7:30 against the Montreal Alouettes. And be sure during Tiger Cats pregame, so that'll start at 6:30 Eastern Time on the Ticats Audio Network with Bubba O'Neill and Andy Fantus. Every home game, we'll run a Greenworks Listen to Win. So it's every game, but this one coming up will be at 6:30. Fans need to listen for the keyword and go to ticats.ca/Greenworks to enter. And this week, one lucky listener, this is a good one, Luke, they'll win a Greenworks 80-volt, 21-inch power push mower and a 16-inch string trimmer courtesy of Greenworks. You and I talk about all the work we're doing, landscaping, and it never
Fence
ends.
Posts, it's everything.
Yeah,
a nice new whippersnipper. I love it. What a cool prize.
The equipment, having good equipment makes the job way easier, and Greenworks will be great. So be sure to listen to Tiger Cats pregame. Get that keyword, and then go to ticats.ca/Greenworks and enter. That's pretty good. You listen to the game, you enter, and you win. You don't have to wait for months and months and months. So that would be a nice little prize. One thing with the Tiger Cat statistics, as I go through, in 2 games, they have 1 field goal attempt. That was successful. That was in game 1, Seth Small, and 1 one-point convert attempt. Again, successful. Again in game 1 by Seth Small. He was put on the suspended list. Mark Leggio came in game 2. Could the Tiger Cats have gone without a kicker in game 2, Luke? No field goal attempts or one-point convert attempps.
I guess it depends how well Bailey Flint can kick off. But yeah, that was really an unusual thing. They were down behind early, and so the 2-point conversions started happening, and then you couldn't get off of that string of 2-point conversions. So yeah, really bizarre. I mean, and I think there was only 1 field goal from Toronto as well.
Yep.
1 3-point field goal from Toronto as well. So yeah, that was an unusual game. Yeah, I wonder how frequently that's happened. And you're right, it was late, so it was almost looking like there'd be no field goals in the game.
Yeah.
And we'll see, because that's been a sort of a position group that's gone through some turmoil through preseason into training camp, and we'll see what happens. But Leggio did what he was called to do, even if it wasn't really a normal game of responsibility.
Yeah, well, it's not a full week of practice, but getting a few days of practice in anyway will probably make him feel a little more comfortable. He'll be the kicker for the Tiger Cats.
And part of that too is in the first week, the Ticats had 2 penalties for kicks out of bounds, and so it's not that it shouldn't go unsaid it's not like that's an easy job for the kicker to do. It's expected, and oftentimes is done well with to no praise, But Leggio stepped in and took care of handled the kickoff responsibilities well.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier that the defense, not a lot of changes. Lawrence Woods back in at fieldside corner. Offense, a lot of changes. Coach O announced on Tuesday, first day of practice after the game, that Bo Levi Mitchell will not start. He might dress, unlikely to play, but being a gamer and a guy who wants to be involved, he'll probably be on the sideline. At least that's expected. The starter will be Matt Schultz. I'm excited, Luke. He came in and tore it up in the last 6 minutes against Toronto. Went 13 for 14 for 115 yards, threw a touchdown and a 2-point convert. This is a real opportunity for Matt to go in there and show what he can do. Are you excited to see him?
Well, I am excited. I just it is additional back to the world of quarterback controversy of the Ticats, which I kind of thought we weren't going to be in anymore. But I'm really excited to see Matt Schultz play. I'm a big fan. I mean, I really enjoy watching him. I enjoy talking with him. He's got everything you kind of want in the demeanor of a quarterback, and has fun out there, and has a light in his eyes. I mean, he really loves it and is excited to go. Of course, I would have also been really excited to see Bo Levi Mitchell come out in a third game and make right some of the mistakes that he's made. I think that we'll have more chances to see Bo Levi Mitchell. But it's a change that they thought. I mean, I asked Coach O in our Coach O show as that gets released on Tuesdays. This is prior to this news. And I said, "What do you do about Matt Schultz? Like, what do you do about this guy? He keeps on coming in and just playing great. When at moments when you didn't know if he was going to or whatever." And apparently, the answer is you start him and you give him more chances to play. And so I don't necessarily, or I guess I'm not necessarily surprised by it. But I just one part of me is saying, like, Mazzoli and Dane and Schultz, and now we've got a new set of some back and forth here, and what really matters is no matter what number is on the field or what name's on the jersey, is just that we have some consistent quarterback play out there.
Yeah, and he'll be motivated too. He started his career with Montreal, and I talked to him before the regular season started, and he prepares as a starter for every game. And I thought his line was good. We said it in the broadcast. He said, "If I don't come into the game, that's great. Everybody's healthy and everything's good. If I do, that's great, because I'm prepared and I'm ready to go." So it's just a great mentality, and he's got some time to prepare for this game against Montreal. But man, he made it look easy when he came in. And it's not easy.
It's not. And, you get a second, maybe you don't know how early he's told about that. Is he given a drive? Is he given a play?
Boy, he couldn't have, though, Luke, because the injury to Bo Levi Mitchell, of course, there's no way he would have known.
Of course, in that game, there's no heads up, right? And so you hit the field, and you've got your week of prep, but you've also been standing there for 2 hours, and you're just not in the energy of the game like somebody who's been handling all the reps through the day. So I mean, that's a unique skill of quarterbacks in general, but of a guy who like Matt Schultz, who has kind of done this throughout his career. But he came in and very immediately looked really sharp.
Couple other changes on offense. Richie Sindani is back from his suspension, and he had a touchdown in each of the 2 preseason games, so we'll see if he can continue that. But Tyreek McAllister, who's been with the team for, what are we at? So tomorrow will be 10 days he's been with the team. Spent some time with the Denver Broncos. He's listed as a running back / receiver. He'll play the slot for the Tiger Cats, and he was wearing number 35 in his first day at practice, and I said to Brandon Treader, who's the communications manager for the Tiger Cats, I said, who's 35? He stood out right away. And a lot of times guys come in and, oh, you had a new player. I didn't even notice in practice. You got 50, 60 guys out there. Yeah. But he really stood out, and an opportunity arises, and obviously the coaching staff likes him. If after 10 days he's in the starting lineup, are you excited to see what he can do?
Yeah, and who knows? The identification of a running back / receiver is kind of exciting of its own. You can imagine a lot of interesting stuff that gets done there. And I remember years with Speedy B, actually, who is alumnus of distinction for this week, and that'll be cool to see him out there on the field. But I remember years sort of in his transition from a pure returner to a pure returner and sort of special package type of offensive player into receiver. There was a lot of cool things that we did with Speedy B too, with just motions and in and out of the backfield, and maybe that's something that they have planned for this, but we'll see. New face and seems to have some skill and some speed, so we'll see.
Speaking of Speedy B, brought back the old Task and Two show. You and Andy with your teammate Brandon Banks. How was that chat?
Great. Speedy's just a great one, and he's doing well. Seems like did not say affirmatively that he was done playing football. Who knows? I asked him if I gave you 4 weeks, could you get back on the field, and be ready to go? And he said, I could do it right now. He said he's training. Well, he's got a gym, and that's what he does right now. He's helping a lot of young guys with their to train to get ready for high school and college, and train to go on to play professionally. And he's speed training and helping guys with the gym and stuff where he is, and good for him, man. He's speaks very highly of his time in Hamilton, and it'll be fun to see him out there. I think autographs before the game for sure, and then I think we're gonna have him on the show. Andy and Bubble interview him, and he'll be on the field. So great to have Speedy B back in Hamilton.
Yes, really good, and we'll see if he surfaces again as a player. I know when it was released, I think the social media group at the Tiger Cats put he's back, and a lot of people's initial reaction was, "Holy cow, Speedy B's coming back!" But it is alumnus of distinction as far as we know going into this game. But we'll see if he does make a comeback. The offensive line, Luke, it's been going into the season on paper it looked great, and all of a sudden the injuries are mounting. You look at that injured list for the Tiger Cats, and there's 4 or 5 offensive linemen on there. They have activated Chris Van Zyl, maybe quicker than they wanted, who knows, but he was ready to get back in. Dayton Black, their first pick in this past draft, will get his first start. He pretty much played the whole game after Coulter Woodmansey got injured pretty early against Toronto, but this will be his first start. Brandon Kemp, he moves from right tackle to left tackle, so he'll have that blind side of Matt Schultz. And Kendrick Sartor, he'll come in at right tackle. Both Kemp and Sartor are 6'7", well over 300 pounds, so you've got a couple of towering presences on the ends of the offensive line. But the injuries for what was expected to be a strong point for the Tiger Cats have started to mount on the offensive line.
Yeah, every year it seems like the injury bug picks a position group, and it can be really hard. And unfortunately, with the six O linemen who have traveled to those first games, the injuries went beyond the depth at that position group, which is where Casey Sales came into play in both of those instances. And yeah, that is hard. And I think part of the storyline of the Toronto game last week was Bo Levi Mitchell not being overly comfortable back there. I mean, he at times he did, of course, but there was a lot of times where he got back there and started to move right away. And like we discussed already, an uncomfortable quarterback who's forced to make quick decisions is more prone to error. And so you just hope that the 5 that start at home, against Montreal will be the 5 that finish. That goes a long way for a successful game plan.
All right. This is game 3 of the season, first home game. What does that mean going back to Tim Hortons Field for the Tiger Cats?
Well, as a player, it's a breath of fresh air. Like you kind of feel the load drop off your shoulders when you start to get ready for your prep for this game. That day 3 into day 4, day 3 being, yesterday, Wednesday, day 4 is Thursday. As you get ready for that Friday game, and you don't have to get on the bus, you don't have to go all the through the airports and the train stations and all that, and that you just relax. You can relax. You're going to come into your own locker room, your fans. You're going to sleep in your own bed, and that home game preparation is a lot more comfortable. And so finally the Ticats get to do that, and that it's an East Division opponent, all the better. And you've just got a great opportunity to go out there and to really be comfortable in front of your home crowd, to love that energy and to love the Tim Hortons Field atmosphere, and to try to be great, really exciting, and it's going to be a great game.
Can the Tiger Cats do it? Can they get their first win of the season?
Oh yeah. Why not? What a great day for them to do that. And we'll see. I mean, I think you and I are both. I mean, Ticat fans should be excited for Matt Schultz. Although, of course, you want you want Bo Levi Mitchell to be healthy and to be playing well. But why not? This will be a great match, and the Ticats 1-2 after this weekend, and you've sort of righted the ship.
Yeah, and they would be tied for the most wins in the East Division. Toronto plays on Sunday, but it's definitely an important victory. Looking forward to seeing you at Tim Hortons Field, Luke, and it's a big game. Not a must-win yet, but pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it, RJ. I'll see you there.
So the game starts at 7:30. You can listen on the Ticats Audio Network. Myself and Luke will have the call. 6:30 is the pregame with Andy and Bubba. And, of course, Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly will have Ticats game day leading into the show. So they'll break things down from their perspective, the players' perspective. Always interesting to hear them. Hope you can be at the game and cheer the Tiger Cats on at Tim Hortons Field. If not, be sure to listen on the Ticats Audio Network.
It's been another busy week for your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Luke Tasker and RJ Broadhead have covered it all, and now we would like to hear from you. Email us anytime at gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.